speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. Welcome to our live Saturday question and answer class. Most of our time today we'll spend on your questions, so feel free to ask those at any time by typing them in the chat, and I will get you answers to your questions. This week I had a poll on the channel community page regarding our topic for the beginning of class, and the vote was that most people wanted to talk about the TH sounds. So let's do a little bit of a review of our TH sounds in English, give you some tips and help for that. You can ask questions about this topic or any topic. So if your question doesn't have anything to do with TH, don't worry about it. Please feel free to ask about words, etc. So as you may know, we have two TH sounds in English. The good news is that you already probably naturally use the correct TH sound in the correct words, and you don't need to worry too much about the fact that they're different. The only place where we have an error between those two TH sounds is when we have the voice TH, like in them, in a word like breathe, sometimes, or in smooth, for example. Sometimes that TH, I will hear people use a voiceless TH instead. So they may be trying to say breathe, and it sounds a little like breathe, or smooth might sound like smooth. But otherwise, it's mostly the errors we have on TH have to do with where your tongue is and whether the air is continuing and flowing. So for many people, TH is difficult because of the tongue position. What I usually like to say is think of your tongue as gently resting between your teeth, and that air can flow over your tongue. So you don't want both or bode or dem. You want to be able to feel and have the tongue air flow. So if I'm trying both, I need to have the air be able to continue. And in order to do that, I need a little space. My tongue rests between my teeth, but it can't push against the teeth or be too far back. So those are the two main errors that people will use both, and it will stop the air. And then to Americans or native speakers, it'll sound like a T sound rather than a th sound. Or some people also have the tongue too far back, not between the teeth. That would sound like both, and you end up having kind of a s sound. So the errors are not that you're intentionally making a t or a s sound, but you don't have the correct tongue position. So to feel that, one thing that I often do with my clients and my students is to just make this sound by itself and continue it, like it might also help you to make sounds like the sound, the F sound that can continue, being able to feel that the air can move. Then try putting that together in the middle of a sound. For example, you might try oothu. Now you're probably going to find that's very difficult. Might be easier to start with your TH and then add a vowel like foo. You're just trying to open and relax, get the tongue out of the way. Often people will try that and it'll sound like thu. They'll end up with a stopping sound sneaking in there. You can also try starting on a vowel and ending in your TH sound like ooth, ooth. That's about getting the tongue into that spot. So that's for our voiceless TH, like in both or in think. And then for the voice TH, it's the same, but just that my voice is on. So if I'm saying them or breathe, again, I might need a little more force to keep my voice on and keep that sound flowing. The errors here would be that if it stops, it's going to sound more like a d, like dem instead of them, or breathe instead of breathe. I do have a full playlist for TH, talks about difficult words with TH, combinations like THR, how to link with TH, and builds up some strategies for you on this sound. You also can get a lot of help for the TH sound in our Sounds of English course on speechmodification.com, as well as our American Accent 6-week course. Just because I would say for this sound, if you have an accent pattern on it, it usually doesn't affect people being able to understand you too much. However, there are so many everyday words that have the TH that it is an important sound to work on. Of the top 20 most frequent words, about 8 of them have a TH sound. So we have them, their, those, that, they, with, etc. So many of these common everyday words, that go by quickly. The most common word in English, the, also has the TH sound. So that's definitely why we want to talk about it. And also it's just an unusual mouth position that you may not have in your native language. So it sometimes feels a little bit awkward to sequence and be able to get this TH sound. If you have questions about TH, feel free to ask those or other questions. I'll turn to your questions now. Welcome everyone. It's so nice to see you here this morning. Also, if you're watching this as a replay, you can also ask questions in the chat or in the comments after class, and I will come back, check those, and get back to you with some resources. Okay, nice to see everyone here. So wonderful. We have a question about the words add and at. So that's a great question. So both of these have the same vowel sound, which is the a vowel, like in black cat. And the main difference between at and add is in how long we're holding that vowel. Because in American English, we don't always say at. I don't say I'm at my house, at, with a strong released T. Or I don't necessarily say I'm going to add that with a D that gets released. Both T and D at the ends of words are often unreleased, so it would sound like at and add. And how to be able to tell the difference between those is that when I'm saying at, my voice, the vowel is going to be fairly short in duration. So if I'm saying I'm at that point, I'm going to just stop the T, keep my vowel short, and then release into the TH, at that, or at the. That would be a good way to practice it. So if we try at the friend's house, at the, stop this T, keep your a short, and move to the word the. And if I'm saying add the, I can say it like that, add the, with the D released, but you can hear how that doesn't flow. I need to add the numbers, add the. I'll do the same thing where I'm stopping that D, add the. I'm just holding my a sound longer. So this one short, this one a little bit longer. Add the numbers together, at the friend's house. And if your struggle is with the a vowel, again, I'll suggest my video for a, and my Sounds of English course is going to walk you through other words that have the a sound, how to make it, what accent errors you might have on that sound, etc. You can build from that. But I do also have some videos about, for example, bet versus bed, where I talk about T and D at the ends of words and how we make those unreleased and how that affects the length of the vowel. Great question. Thank you so much. That's really useful pair of words to look at. Okay, we have a question about the word since. So since has the I vowel, like it and is, and letters CE typically will say the S sound in English, since. So thinking about since I was, since you told me, ever since that happened, you're really just kind of thinking about since. Keep your I vowel nice and relaxed so it doesn't become an E like since. And yeah, fairly straightforward, but the spelling doesn't always give us a clue about the S sounds. The I vowel can be challenging for people. Hopefully that answered your question about since. Thank you for that question. Okay, we have a question about, is there an O sound between S and W in words like swim and sweet? So definitely not. And this is something that is challenging for some people where they want to, in a blend, make kind of a vowel like sweet or swim. When I do swim, what you might be perceiving is that I have to go from an unrounded shape for the S to a rounded shape for the W. Swim. So you might notice there's a little bit of sound in there, but you don't want to lengthen that or intentionally put it in. I don't want swim or so-im. So what I would suggest is start with your W, like whim, feel how your mouth has to be that for that, and then add your S back on. Whim, swim. So I'm trying to have my mouth ready for the W as I'm doing my sound, so that I don't want, for example, to do a broad swim that's going to end up with extra sound and make it sound distorted and make it take too long to get to my W. So trying whim, swim, wheat, sweet. Not always easy, but practicing other words that have the sw combination could be helpful for you. That's a great question. Thank you so much. I do also talk about S blends and air patterns for those, how to practice the different combinations with S and another consonant sound in our Sounds of English course on speechmodification.com. Okay, we have a question about the pronunciation of the vowel in cap, cup, and cop. So yes, those are 3 different vowels. I do have a video talking about the a, the and the ah vowels. And then of course our Sounds of English course talks about every vowel and how it's spelled, how to do these kinds of minimal pairs. What we're looking at is the a is a front open vowel, lax. It's in words like cat and that. The is a central, it's vowel schwa, central, unrounded, and it's in words like such and fun. And then the that's an open back vowel. It's in words like father and hot, and also cop. So, also not. So typically for these kinds of pairs, it can be helpful to match. So for example, if I was saying that cap, that cap, keeping my vowel consistent, or a fun cup, keeping the schwa vowel consistent, and then not a cop, or my father's a cop, keeping that vowel consistent between the two. Because you might have difficulty between cup and cop, but you might not have as much trouble between fun and father. So having a way, an anchoring word to help you understand what the vowel is, learning the symbols for the vowel sounds, and then being able to do contrasts like this can be very helpful for your ear and your pronunciation. A lot of people have difficulty between the and the so I do have a video about vowel and vowel schwa that you might find helpful for those. Yeah, that's a great question, and yes, these are all 3 different vowel sounds. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see. We have a question about since versus sins. Okay, so I probably should have mentioned that when I was talking about since, that the IPA for that looks like the word sins, but the word sins has a Z sound. So this letter S says Z in sins, the sins of the father, for example. And where we hear that is mostly when we link. So if I'm saying sinsai, I'm really going to hear that S sound on the I, sinsai, versus sinzai, committed, sinzai. I'm going to hear more of a Z as I connect those two. So that's the difference between since and sins. Good follow-up on that initial question. Thank you. Okay. We have a question about transference. So transference. Transference, we have first syllable stress. There's our black cat vowel again. Transfer. Just like in transfer, the S sound, the letter S that makes an S sound here. Ference. And then we have another CE that says S. This last E, we don't really do transference. Yeah, I actually think we can do transference or transference with middle syllable stress. So unfortunately, I don't have my dictionary handy today. I would look that one up for you. I'll come back after class and leave you a little note. whether it's transference or transference. I think it may depend on how you use the word, but let's go with the middle syllable stress here. So that would sound like transference, where I'm writing this last syllable with no vowel letter because we're going as quickly as possible from the sound to the n sound, transference, where this is a syllabic n. There's really basically no vowel there. If there were any vowel there, it would be a little I or a little sound, very short and reduced, transference. Yeah, sorry, I don't have my dictionary handy. Usually I like to keep that nearby so that I can double check on vowel sounds and syllable stress. Even as a pronunciation teacher, I use those resources often to make sure that I give you accurate information. And I do have a lot of resources about how to use the dictionary, both in classes here on YouTube and on my website, speechmodification.com. If you go to our free practice area and you type in the search box, type dictionary, you'll see lessons that teach you about how to find vowel sounds, syllable stress, and other information in dictionaries. And it also has links to the online dictionaries I prefer to use. Thank you for that question. Okay. We have a question about perfect as an adjective, like a perfect day, and perfect, the verb. I want to perfect my accent. So generally, when we have words that can be a noun or a verb or an adjective or a verb, the pattern is that we have first syllable stress when it's a noun or an adjective. So a perfect day is stressed on per. That's going to be long, and fict is going to be short. Sounds like a cat's purring. A perfect. Versus a verb is typically stressed on the second syllable, perfect. We're going to still have the sound, but now we're going to be shorter. And the vowel in perfect is going to have the clear vowel in the stress syllable, perfect. So she wants to perfect her performance. Once she perfects it, it will be perfect. So you can hear how this vowel is a reduced I when it's unstressed in the noun or in the adjective, and it's a clear vowel when it's stressed in the verb. I have a number of videos talking about nouns versus verbs and syllable stress, and we talk about this in our American Accent 6-week course as well. Not all nouns and verbs have first or last syllable stress patterns, just some of the time, and when it's spelled the same way, like record and record, or produce and produce, or perfect and perfect. Perfect suggestion and question. Thanks so much. That's really a useful topic for a lot of people. So I appreciate your great questions today, everyone. Okay. We had a follow-up from Transference. Okay, so transference, he used the dictionary, thank you, and transference for British and transference for American. So I thought both of those sounded familiar. Yeah, thank you for that follow-up. Okay, we have a question about restaurant. So restaurant has a couple of different ways that Americans will say it. They will either say restaurant, aunt. So restaurant. More often though, we'll do 2 syllables rather than 3. You hear me playing around with that, where it sounds more like restaurant. So we're going to the restaurant. I'll meet you at the restaurant. This middle syllable gets so fast that we just go right to a tr instead of ter. Restaurant or restaurant. Yeah, it's kind of confusing because it looks like it should have a little bit more there with that AUR, restaurant. But in many cases where it's not an important syllable, we can reduce down to 2, restaurant. Similar to words like groceries versus groceries, interest or interesting versus interesting. There's many places where we tend to reduce the number of syllables. Yeah, great question. Okay, I'll come back to your other words if there's time at the end. I want to make sure I get to some of the requests from everyone. Let's see. We had a question about literature and literally. So in American English, literature, we tend to do literature, all 4 syllables. And it sounds, we make this one into a flap, so it sounds like literature. This TU is a CH sound. Literature. So practicing that slowly, literature, first syllable stress. British more literature. They do that, what we were just talking about with restaurant. They, instead of litera, they do litra, so they reduce to 3 syllables. English, American English, literature. And then literally, same thing. British, literally. American English, literally. So literally, that's for literally. Literally. So literally, you're going to just sound more British. So go with that flap, literature and literally. I do have a video about each of these where I go into a little more detail. So after class, if there's time, I'll put some timestamps in the description and the comments for this video so you can follow up on some of your questions. Also, if you're ever looking for a little more detailed information than we get to in this class, leave me a comment on the class after class or on any of my videos, and I'll direct you to some of the resources I mentioned, a specific video for your word, or another video talking about patterns like we had with cap, cup, and cop, so that you can follow up with the questions that you have and see how they apply in other places as well. Great questions today. I'll take a couple more and then we'll need to wrap up for today. It's wonderful to see so many of you here, and thank you so much for being a part of class today. Okay, we do have another question about the word throughout. So for throughout, we have second syllable stress, and I do have a video for throughout and through. This through is the same as the past tense, I threw the ball. And sometimes you see through misspelled like this, like in drive through, for example. Basically, even though we have OUGH, which can be or ah or ow in different words, in through, it's the oo sound. So I'll rewrite it like through, and then out, we have the ow diphthong, which we usually spell with OU or AU. I'll write it this way, like ow, I hurt myself, throughout. So short and then long, throughout. Throughout the day, throughout one's life, throughout speech, etc. That's a great word, thank you. And then you also asked about ambiance. So this comes from the French. Some people will say ambiance, more similar to the French with the ah. So ambiance. And then some people will say ambience, like ambient lighting. So they sometimes will use the flat cat vowel. I would recommend ambiance for this particular word. First syllable stress, ambiance. The ambiance in that restaurant is terrible or nice. Okay, we have a question about schedule. So British English, schedule. American English, schedule. The CH says a k sound. Letter E says the red tent vowel. We have first syllable stress, schedule. DU in this word says a j sound, schedule, and then we have a schwa, unstressed schwa, and our L sound. So thinking about it like schedule. So I've rewritten the j sound with letter J here, like in jump, schedule, jul. And I don't write a vowel here because you want to move very quickly from the j to that dark ol. I do have a video for schedule, helping you break that down and those sounds because it is a little bit challenging. Sometimes people will say my schedule. So you can do a little bit of a schedule, or just schedule. Both are okay. Yeah, tough word. Thank you for that request. Okay. Let's see. We have a question about while. I did see your comment about this. So you were saying that you hear Americans say while a couple of different ways. I tend to say while. I wonder, I should probably listen to that as well to see what the other way is. While I. Maybe a reduced version where it's not so much an aisle, like the aisle, but just while. That's to me a little more southern, like while. The I diphthong might get a little reduced to just the to just the part of it, while. That would be a southern version, while I. Let me do a little research. I'll look on Youglish too and see what I hear for that. Maybe you can try to describe the second pronunciation that you hear that's not the while, but maybe you're having trouble knowing what that is. So nothing comes to mind immediately for another way to say while, except for maybe just getting a little bit reduced on the vowel rather than while, just while I. Maybe while I. Maybe just a little more of an ah sound. More similar to wall. Not all the way to wall, but while I talk, while I. Yeah, so I think it's about speed. Either if I'm saying it by itself or more slowly, while I agree, or while I'm talking, while I'm. So it gets, the I gets reduced to just more of an ah. Typical that in fast speech, sometimes our vowel sounds may be a little bit reduced on all of the different vowels, so that's probably what you're hearing. Usually while is not the stressed word. If I'm saying stay a while, then I have more time to say while. If I'm just saying while I'm talking, while I'm, then I'm much faster on that I, and it may get a little bit reduced in terms of the vowel. Okay. Great. We need to wrap up for today. We're running out of time. I will say I do have a video about comfortable. So after class, I'll try to put a link here or leave me a comment and I'll send you the link directly for where you can find that video about comfortable. If you're on the channel page, Speech Modification Seattle, especially if you're on your desktop, there's a search box right on the channel and you can type in your word. It'll pull up any videos that I have on your particular word. But also the easiest way is to just leave me a comment so that I can direct you to the specific video I have for your request. Okay. Last question, last two questions. We have necklace. So for the word necklace, necklace, 2 syllables, not necklace, but just necklace. So necklace. And then we had a question about math operations, so pronouncing plus, minus, and times. So we would say 2 plus 2, so 2 plus 2, 5 minus 3, and 4 times 4, if that's your question. So this is multiplication, subtraction, and addition. We say plus, minus, and times, typically for those. in American English. Okay, wonderful class today. It's so great to see so many of you here with your really helpful questions. I know they helped not only you, but others, so I appreciate you asking them. Thanks so much for your comments, your likes, sharing videos, subscribing to the channel. It really does help us grow, and it really provides a lot of support for me, so I appreciate that. Do let me know what you'd like to see in future classes. We will have our regular Saturday class as well as our Word of the Day classes. So tune in again tomorrow for Word of the Day. We also have a channel members class tomorrow. So those of you who have joined as channel members, you can ask your questions throughout the week and I answer them for you on Sundays in the exclusive members only class. You can click the join button if you're interested in learning more about membership. And as I mentioned earlier in class, we do have a lot of free resources on my website, speechmodification.com, as well as some inexpensive, under $2 online courses. So our Sounds of English course and our American Accent 6-week course are some great starting points for the types of questions your guys were asking today. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in our next class. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye everyone. Thanks for a great class.